Okay, welcome back. This is segment two of our Shirley English. We're just going to pick up with where we left off, and I will try not to talk quite as much. I don't think there's quite as much for me to share, but here we go.
Now, let's take some time to do a word study. Take a look at the word abundantly. I'd like you to use context clues or a dictionary to define the word abundantly. Go ahead and pause your computer if you need to go get a dictionary.
You don't actually.
Merriam-Webster defines abundantly as existing or occurring in large amounts. Notice that the suffix ly makes abundantly an adverb. By removing the ly suffix, you can change the adverb abundantly to the adjective abundant. You can also turn the adjective abundant into the noun abundance. What are some things that are abundant in your life? Here are some things that are abundant in my life: love, friends, and nature. Take a look at number 2 in our word study. The term jargon refers to the specialized vocabulary used by people in certain sports, hobbies, or professions. In sentence 3, the words downfield, pass, quarterback, and play are considered football jargon. Can you think of other words that are unique to certain sports, hobbies, or professions that can be labeled as jargon?
Here, I actually want you to pause your computer and write down maybe 3 or 4 words that you can think of that are unique to a hobby or a sport or something you enjoy doing.
I'd like you to pause your computer and take a few minutes to make a list. Come back when you're finished. It's time to begin skill time. Let's review clauses. A clause is a group of words with a subject and predicate. Sentences are made of clauses. There are 2 kinds of clauses: an independent clause and a dependent clause. An independent clause has a subject and a predicate, expresses a complete thought, and can stand alone as a sentence. A dependent clause has a subject and a predicate, but does not express a complete thought and cannot stand alone as a sentence. Listen carefully as we learn about complex sentences in reference 105. You have studied simple and compound sentences. Now you will study the complex sentence. Let's read this complex sentence together. My mom was very happy after she found her keys. A complex sentence is made by joining an independent clause and a dependent clause. Subordinate conjunctions introduce dependent clauses. Let's find the subordinate conjunction in this complex sentence. My mom was very happy after she found her keys. If a clause begins with a subordinate conjunction, it is called a dependent clause and cannot stand alone as a sentence. For example, take a look at the orange subordinate conjunction. It begins our dependent clause. It cannot stand alone, or it would sound like this: after she found her keys. Obviously, part of the sentence is missing. A subordinate conjunction is the name given to the conjunctions that introduce dependent clauses. Read through the list of common subordinate conjunctions with me, please. After, although, as, or as soon as, because, before, even though, except, if, since, so that, than, that, though, unless, until, when, where, while. Making complex sentences. There are 2 ways to join a dependent clause to an independent clause. Let's use the sentence, after she found her keys, my mom was very happy. If the dependent clause is first, add a comma after it. If the dependent clause is last, put a period after it. Take a special look at the student note. Another name for a dependent clause is subordinate clause. Pay close attention as reference 106 teaches us about writing complex sentences. Number 1. The abbreviation for a complex sentence is capital C, capital X. We will use these two clauses to create our complex sentence. The tickets went on sale. The seat sold out in 2 hours. Now, let's use this sentence structure strategy to create our complex sentence. Put the dependent clause first and the independent clause last. The CX tells you to write a complex sentence. The after one tells you to add the subordinate conjunction after to the first clause to make it dependent. This punctuation mark tells you to put a comma after the first clause. Together, let's read our newly constructed complex sentence. After the tickets went on sale, the seats sold out in 2 hours. Number 3 shows us the sentence structure strategy when placing the dependent clause last. Put the independent clause first and the dependent clause last. The CX tells you to write a complex sentence. The next part tells you to add the subordinate conjunction when to the second clause to make it dependent. No comma is needed. The next part tells you to add the subordinate conjunction when to the second clause to make it dependent. No comma is needed. The first clause reads, "We ran to the door." The second clause reads, "We heard the doorbell." Remember, when you add the subordinate conjunction to the second clause, no extra comma is needed. Now that it is a dependent clause, it cannot stand alone. It depends on the independent clause to be complete. Let's read our complex sentence together. We ran to the door when we heard the doorbell. That was a lot of information. Let's review what we've just learned.
Okay, so we're not going to do the review right now. We'll save the review for tomorrow. Okay, so this information about subordinate or dependent clauses, it's all information that is brand new to you. I'm guessing at least that you didn't cover that last year in 3rd grade. This is kind of like a preview to a movie that they're going to be showing in the theaters. You're watching TV and a movie preview comes up. Dealing with subordinate and independent clauses or dependent and can be used as well as subordinate as far as synonyms. They're synonymous. This information is new. You're going to see it again and again and again and again. Just not going to see it this year because we have a limited amount of time left in the school year. But you will see it next year and you will see it the year after that when you're working with Mrs. Heiner. So don't stress too much about that if this is brand new information. You're going to get it. Okay? All right. God's blessings. That's all we're doing for today. Bye.